Hello again, hope you're all doing okay. I'm going to read you Hansel and Gretel, but not the version you might be familiar with. This is one of Roald Dahl's versions, and it's one of his rhyming ones from Rhyme Stew. If you know the story, it'll help you understand the poem. You might find it a bit funnier if you know the original story. Here we go. Hansel and Gretel. Mum said to Dad, "Those kids of ours, that food that each of them devours, that Hansel, cripes, that little tick, to watch him eat it makes me sick. And as for ghastly, greedy Gretel, I'm turning round to boil the kettle, and while I'm at it, she's been able to guzzle all that's on the table." The father merely shrugged and sighed. Mum waved her frying pan and cried, "My motto is that we come first. Them kids should always get the worst. Now, look, if we could rub them out, there'd be more beans and sauerkraut and stuff for you and me to eat. Mind you, we'd have to be discreet." The father said, "Well, what's to do? We can't just flush them down the loo." To which the mother answered, "No, they're much too big, they wouldn't go." "What if," the father said, "they fell, quite accidentally, down the well?" "Oh no," Mum said, "I doubt we oughter. It might pollute the drinking water. I think it's better on the whole to take them for a little stroll and lose them in amongst the trees. Now, surely that's a better wheeze." "Let's do it," Dad cried out, "and then we'll never see the pigs again." "Walkies," the parents cried, "it's spring. Let's go and hear the birdies sing. Let's look for robins in the trees. Let's pick some wild anemones." Now, Hansel suddenly espies his mother's shrewd and shifty eyes. He whispers softly, "Listen, sis, I don't much like the smell of this. I think our loving mum and dad are plotting something rather bad. I think I'd better mark our track to help us on the journey back." So on the walk, when outward bound, he scatters breadcrumbs on the ground. They walk, all four, for hours and hours. They see no robins, pick no flowers. The wood is dark and cold and bare, and Dad says, "Children, stay right there. Your mum and I have things to do. We'll see you later. Toodaloo." They sidled off with perfect ease and disappeared among the trees. "They're going to dump us," Gretel cried. "They won't succeed," the boy replied. "We'll get back home, we cannot fail, by following the breadcrumb trail. Just take my hand and come with me. We'll find our way. You wait and see." But oh, alas, where crumbs had been, there now was nothing to be seen. Young Gretel cried, "You silly twit, the crows have eaten every bit." Poor little children all alone, the foul and filthy parents flown. Poor little children all forlorn, to face the dismal murky morn. "We'll starve to death," young Hansel cried, when all at once the youth espied a funny little snow-white bird, who spoke as follows, word for word. "Come follow me, you troubled things, I'll take you on my silver wings, to safety, to a lovely place, where you can live in peace and grace." There are some lovely illustrations by Quentin Blake. This wondrous bird then led them forth for miles and miles towards the north, until at last there hove in sight a lovely cottage painted white. And there before the cottage door these two enraptured children saw a sweet old dame with rosy skin, who smiled and said, "Oh, do come in. You must be hungry, little lambs." She fed them treacle tarts and hams, and sugar buns and gorgeous jam. The children cried, "Oh, thank you, ma'am." The woman with the rosy cheeks now smiles again and softly speaks, "My darling children, as you see, you eat extremely well with me." She then serves up the second treat, a very curious roast of meat, all sizzling hot and crispy brown. The happy children wolf it down. The hostess says, "Do have some more. I doubt you've tasted this before." Young Hansel asked her, "Is it lamb, or is it beef, or is it ham?" "Whatever it is, I must admit, it's awfully tender, isn't it?" The woman said, "This special meat's the only type I like to eat." Then Gretel says, I'll make a bid. This meat is either goat or kid. The woman says, well, no and yes. I must say kid's a clever guess. She smiled and chewed and chewed and smiled and looked so innocent and mild. As soon as they had left the table, the woman led them to a stable. Stable? They wondered, turning pale. The place looked like a sort of jail, with bars and bolts and horrid things, like manacles and iron rings. The woman said, go in and look. It's such a cosy little nook. So Hansel, wanting to explore, went boldly through the open door. The woman quickly slammed it, bang! The bar and locks and bolts went clang. Hey, let me out, young Hansel cried. You stay in there, the dame replied. I'm going to feed you up a treat until you're fat enough to eat. The brothers Grimm, who wrote this story, made it 1,000 times more gory. I've taken out the foulest scene in order that you won't turn green. It is beyond me how it came to merit such enormous fame. Did parents really, in those days, agree to read such gruesome plays to little children in the night? And did they never die of fright? It might have been okay, who knows, if there'd been humour in the prose. Did I say humour, Willem Grimm? There's not a scrap of it in him. I'll cut the grisly ending short, but even so, I think I ought to tell you gently what came next. I'll make it brief so you won't be vexed. Just when the stove is nice and hot, the water's boiling in the pot. The pot's for boiling Hansel in, the stove is for crisping up his skin. Young Gretel in her pinafore flings open wide the door. The fire is going out, she cried. The woman pokes her head inside, and Gretel, with a springy jump, takes aim and kicks her on the rump. She totters forward, in she goes, head first, and last of all her toes. Now, Gretel, with a gleeful roar, slams shut the open oven door. The temperature inside, she sees, is just on 4 or 5 degrees, and soon this red-hot oven heat gives out the smell of roasting meat. The child runs as fast as she is able to open up the prison stable. Hansel, she shouts, we're free at last. The foul old dame is roasting fast. Young Hansel cried, oh, well done you. Oh, what a splendid thing to do. But then again, you must admit, you always liked to cook a bit. And on the next page, we've got a recipe. Roald Dahl produced a book called Revolting Recipes, and it's called Hansel and Gretel Spare Ribs. Don't worry, it doesn't have Hansel and Gretel in it or any other children. Well, I hope you enjoyed that and it made you laugh or at least smile. See you soon. Bye, everyone.